In June we had an event called The Future of Housing, and since then I've been writing up the thoughts of this think tank event that was held during Bristol Big Green Week. The picture here is of Lilac, Low Impact Living Affordable Community in Leeds. It's a co-housing cooperative where everybody, 20 families are living there, and 6 apartment blocks with a common house, which is on the right, and a deck and a place where they can cook communally. No front gardens, no fences on the front gardens, so kids can run free. And these are the lovely people who are living in this place. And the plan shows plenty of room for their allotments up in the top left. So what can we say about housing in the UK? It's very expensive. It's expensive because we've got a housing bubble that's pumped up prices with 100 billion a year of illegal funds being pumped in to launder money, apparently. Can we do anything about that? It's a good question. There's certainly the intention to do something locally. Bristol has a new mayor who's intending to tackle the housing crisis. The council stopped selling off land. It's planning to do something about homelessness, and it's planning to build 2,000 homes a year by 2020, 800 of them affordable. And with the Community Land Trust, they held a meeting just a week ago, in July the 18th, to look at scaling up community-led housing in Bristol. And we were there with some of the ideas that have been developed by Connolly and Callaghan and Sustainable Britain. And our vision that we presented at the EcoBuild exhibition in London in around about February is that everyone can have access to affordable and sustainable homes. Currently, less than 30-40% of people can afford their own home. So this is a sea change. This means a radical change, which would seem to be what the council are also after. So how do we get affordable housing? In the past, we used to have council association that was affordable and housing association homes. We have developer-led private housing and we have community-led housing. Council housing and housing association homes have kind of been disappeared from the market as a result of the action of successive governments. And now, with the housing bubble, a home in Bristol costs $235,000 on average, 4 times that much in London. But in Leeds at Lilac, house costs are average about $130,000. And energy costs are lower too, just £150 a year in well-insulated homes, as opposed to a UK average of £1,350 a year. That's a big difference, and the question is maybe, where would you rather live? And if you want to live in somewhere that's cheaper and more energy efficient, how do we get from here to there? Looking at developer-led housing, there are 3 main elements in the cost of a house. There's the materials and the labour, and there's the cost of the land, which is sold off at auction at best value, which means at auction, with developers offering as much as they can afford to offer based on the knowledge that they're going to sell homes at market value, bubble market prices. So that inflates the cost by as much as a factor of 3, or much more than that if you're in London. Whereas if you look at community-led housing, there are 3 mechanisms in community housing, 3 main mechanisms which contribute to reduced costs. A community land trust can be set up that owns the land in perpetuity or leased from a council at a peppercorn, and then the land is leased out as opposed to sold at auction. Self-build and custom build mean that we put equity into our own homes, we're putting our own work in, and it's not being built by builders who are bidding for jobs from developers. And in co-housing communities, the community itself is a developer, and it's developing shared facilities that raise value. So all of this contributes to reduced house prices, And the questions, can we develop an integrated approach? I'm going to think of an example here that's already happened that might give us a clue. When the first microcomputers arrived, the first application that came out with them was WordStar, a word processor. And then along came spreadsheets and databases. All of these were on different computers and they're completely incompatible. So that's a problem. So how did the solution come? It came with Microsoft launching Office, where you got all three applications for the price of one in a single package. But came with a couple more applications, graphics, and with web browsers and email as well. So a whole bunch of stuff came in a single package. And it all came with an integrated interface that was unified, and it was cross-platform. It worked on a PC or a Mac. Well, okay. So meanwhile, back at community-led housing, trying to develop an integrated approach, what might that look like? Well, you want to put custom-build community land trusts and co-housing in a package, all to reduce house prices, but also we need to have the skills to design, plan and finance ourselves as communities, and we want the best materials that we can use. If we bring that all together in a single group, that's going to help communities build their co-housing communities. This idea was already suggested at the council event. You end up with a community-led housing group in their own land who's gone through this experience, and they can help another community. In the computer analogy I've just shown, there was an operating system that made it work, and there was some hardware. With the group I'm working with, Connolly and Callaghan, we've got some hardware already. We've got an office building that is a community, a social community, and that has its own operating system. Coexist, that is running the facility and helping people work together. And there may be an operating system upgrade in the offing with U Labs coming from Theory U, coming from MIT. Otto Scharmer has developed an approach to facilitating communities in innovation more effectively. The idea is that you bring your skill set, but you suspend disbelief and judgment, and we're looking to bring groups into a space where they're ready to innovate. We already have a shorthand for that, holding a space. Crystallizing out new ideas is going for coffee, and prototyping ideas is laying down markers. And in U Labs, there is a process for getting towards a point where everybody's communicating effectively and let go of their egos, shifting from ecosystems to ecosystems. We call that doing the work. In U Labs, it's processes 1, 2, and 3, holding a space, observing and sensing. And there's an introduction to U Labs online, going to be released on August 15th. And U Labs this year is running as an event, as a course, starting in September. Our own experience crystallizing a vision started maybe 5-6 years ago when we ran a first Zero Carbon Bristol event looking at ways of creating zero carbon communities. And in particular, we were looking at the Centre for Alternative Technologies Zero Carbon Britain approach and the ideas that the World Future Council had come up with for regenerative cities, from taking cities which maybe used to live in a rural idyll, a city-state surrounded by countryside that fed it, and in an industrial society, Herbie Giraudet calls it Petropolis. It's become very leaky and very wasteful with fossil fuels and money and energy leaving our cities. And the question is, can we create something much more balanced with cities providing their own 100% renewable energy? The answer? Got to be possible. Again, we did a design study around a vacant rural agricultural college, and that was our experience of creating an extensive community engagement that led into opening up Hamilton House as a community. And into a first housing project here. This is the use of sustainable materials to create 18 apartments, Bristol's first code level 4 apartments. And they were used as social housing straight away. What was interesting here was that former offenders living in buildings that cared for them and gave them a low cost of living, reoffending rates dropped by 40%. Quite remarkable. So Lilac itself is a prototype of the use of sustainable materials, and St. Bernard's Road, west end of Bristol, 7 homes that look very conventional. They look like brick-built homes, but they've got solar panels, and behind the bricks is beautiful modular straw bale walls. So this was an experiment in bringing this kind of material. Okay. We have more planned. In Bristol and in Frome. I'm going to move mod cell in the next one. But here is mod cell, custom homes, carbon capture materials, and what you're creating is, in the home itself is carbon capture home. Affordable homes. 2 examples here of building homes at prices that are genuinely affordable. In fact, a third one. Homes at £1,000 a square metre. We haven't yet been able to build straw bale homes at this price, so but we really want to build truly affordable homes. And what do we mean by affordable? Do we mean 20% off open market value, or do we mean less than 3 times income? Actually affordable on people's income. Open market value can be massive, can exclude 70% of the people from the market. But if we mean less than 3 times income, then that means affordable's got to be 90,000 or 45,000. So we've shown in those examples. I want to give 2 examples of luxury homes. Here's the Living Village Trust. And here's La Casa por el Tejado. These are, whoa, that's noisy. These are luxury penthouses being built inside a factory that's basically an empty warehouse in just 8 weeks. And at the end of the 8 weeks, they're lifted onto the roof. And these are luxury apartments in Barcelona. So while the build cost is carefully controlled and it's very efficient, the homes themselves sell at a premium. So this is an idea to feed into our plan as we develop the straw bale technology that is truly affordable. What can we do? The answer is copy best practice, Tesla's secret master plan, which has been to build a sports car that people pay a lot of money for, and then in succession build cheaper cars for larger volume. And we should be able to do the same thing. As we bring down the cost of straw bale technology, we should be able to increase the volume of homes from samples to dozens and then hundreds. And that would give us a learning curve where we start out with low volume and high margin, working with people like Village Makers and La Casa. Medium developments, affordable on average income, and then scaling up. And beyond that, the sky's the limit. You can build everything and anything with communities well able to realize their visions of what they want to create in their area. Just to show how this might work in an actual project, you might have first contact with a community, and you produce a first plan, and that first plan itself might be good enough to submit for planning permission. Indeed, it might be angled to produce planning permission, not necessarily putting in all the features a community might want, but putting in all the features that planners require. And then you go into a deeper community engagement and then produce a second plan and then build out the site and occupy it. With job creation. How does that work? You can imagine a spreadsheet where the different succession of projects contribute to different working groups in the plan. The two examples I mentioned earlier in Bristol and Frome are on land that's already been bought. So you can well imagine putting in some open market sales, selling to people who want to buy at open market price, then putting in some affordable homes, perhaps more than 30%, and then demonstrating true affordability by factoring out the cost of the land and paying for that out of profits from open market sales. So where are we on a learning curve? This is from McKinsey, and it's talking about how an existing business can start its new business model. And Connolly and Callaghan are Bristol's largest provider of emergency shelter accommodation, and this new business has been in the works for a couple of years, has been functioning internally with a lot of other things going on. And the question is, are we at a point of clarity? I hope this model shows that we are, and ready for action to move forward and start building first versions of new communities. And as Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. So we've been laughed at before with Hamilton House. People said it wasn't possible. But this idea of co-housing communities, there are plenty of examples of this, and just hope the idea here is this could be a first integrated group helping communities build what they dream of. Come back to the beginning, how we get from expensive private housing to community co-housing, and adding in community land trusts, which can reduce the cost of the land still further and shift from working your butt off to pay for a house and a mortgage to being able to work and play and living in a co-housing community that's on a community land trust and having a job that provides an income that pays for your house. Let's not delude ourselves that everybody's going to get this straight away. And oh yeah, I had some ideas here for the roles that you need to have in a team. We already have these in-house, and we have friends with all the other skills that we want to bring in. It's not quite obvious why I'm showing this twice, but I am. And then we finish with some credits. Which is clearly incomplete.